Yeah. And how do you approach the kind of behavior change? You set some goals. Do the persons, do you set it together? How do you do this discussion? And how many things you think people can concentrate on? Like if you give too many things that all right, you need to change this and this and
But I
this. So
don't.
yeah,
I read.
how many do you do and how do you
Yeah,
do it? Yeah.
yeah. I read people.
Yeah.
It's so important to read people. So I'm 100% sure I don't give them something that's too
Yeah.
hard. Either the training program or, for example, at the moment I have 2 young women in my program who have small kids. I'm very aware. We're trying to keep a balance because sometimes, again, like the kids are sick or they're not, maybe a little bit too stressed. They're not gonna walk too many steps or do a workout program. So again, I'm trying to balance the food intake so they still lose weight. So sometimes it's about finding the balance in the person. So and sometimes the balance, the personal balance, is not like in a specific box. You really have to read. For example, I have in my group last year a woman who had a major cancer operation in her leg, and the doctor told her now, and she was obese, and she had her veins removed, and like this leg was really big, and he said you have to be so aware you cannot walk or cycle too many steps or cycle for too long because it puts stress on the leg. And she came to me and like, okay, I did some strength training with her because we could do that, but we were not able to add too much cardiovascular training with her. Then we focused on the nutrition. And for her, I mostly said, okay, we're going to leave the leg.
Yeah.
The doctor told us to leave the leg.
Yeah.
So then I gave her only 2 portions of food a day and made sure that she had all the nutritions in these 2 portions of food because she was actually still inactive. But that was advised of the doctor.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she lost weight.
Yeah.
She lost, I think, 13 kilos in 12 weeks. Even though she was inactive.
Yeah, yeah. And this 12 weeks, how did you come up? Do you think this is a good length to kind of sell to people that they are committing
Yes.
for the right
Yes.
length? Or yeah, tell a little bit
Yes.
about that.
Yeah. The whole idea was, again, when I was studying in the States, I went to this lecture and there was a psychiatrist telling about that if you go to any kind of consultant for stop smoking or health advice or whatever, and you get the advice, the percentage of people who have success with the advice by themselves is very low. So, but he said, if you come back to your either trainer or nutrition counselor or coach once a week for 12 weeks, he said, I remember the research, but he said 82% of the people then have success with changing their habit. So he said, you don't have to say something new. You have to be there for people. You have to, coach them all the way in order to change their habit. So the good thing is when people start, also because my program is very expensive, they're so motivated. Maybe sometimes they're too motivated. And then after 4 or 5 weeks, it's like, it's a normal day. And that's where the habits, that's where we start. Because it's not when you really have energy and you make effort and you go down the supermarket and you buy super duper salads and go and buy fresh salmon, because then it's raining and,
Yeah.
something is happening in your family and you don't have time to buy the good salad. That's where you change your habit, when it's a normal day. So it's a good thing about it's a long program.
Yeah.
So people really, they can't fake it. They really have to change their habit.
Yeah, makes sense. And maybe it could be interesting to hear some, you have tell kind of anecdotal stories. What are kind of the awakenings people, like you said, that they realize, for example, that the mental running is not actual activity? What
Yeah.
other kind of anecdotal stories you would have share from the
Yeah,
coaching?
I think, yeah, it's definitely I have 2 things to say about that. One thing is that people are more inactive than they think. That's the whole thing. So the reason why sometimes people are overweight is not because, of course, they eat too much, but it's also, some of them are not like overeating, they like binge eating. They're just normal eating, but it's still a lot because they don't have any activity at all. That's one thing. The other thing, and I don't know if I can say it loud so other people can hear what I think, but many of the people I have who are overweight, I send to a psychiatrist, actually. Because if you really, I know again, Denmark is again very well known nowadays because of Wegovy. The Novo Nordisk, one of the biggest Danish medical company, are selling a lot of this medicine so people can give themselves injections so they're not hungry, because it affects the how hungry you are, so you don't eat. So, but I really want to think, what did you do as a child? Is your family obese? Because sometimes this, I'm going to stop and tell something else. I always tell them, if you have a baby, and the baby is like 1-2 years old, and you want to give this baby porridge, and after maybe 7 spoonfuls, your baby doesn't want porridge, and the baby just stops and turns the head. It doesn't want anymore. Because inside, the baby has this feeling of, when have I had enough food? And I'm telling them, we all are born with that inner, what you said, kind of, I don't know how to say it in English, but we are all born with that, so we can feel
satiety,
like the baby. Yeah. And then we get older, and that inner feeling of feeling full is affected of, if you don't eat your potatoes, you're not allowed to get chocolate, and you affected about maybe having a hard time as a child, and your mother's eating, then you eat, and so on. So a lot of the habits are connected to an emotion. I really think this, in this whole debate about being obese, I really think there's a lacking. Again, I read a lot of research, and then there's a lot of scientists saying about, again, what has happened in your body physically, and if you have obese parents, you also get obese, but you also inherit the behavior of eating and the behavior of exercise. All of them, I think, is like, I compare food with alcohol, and I tell them, if you did the same with alcohol, you will be an alcoholic. Because when you have a bad day, you eat too much, and some of them, cannot have a box of chocolate or biscuits in their cupboard. Otherwise, they'll just go out and eat it as soon as their husband or wife or kids are not there. And I said to them, do you have wine at home? Yes, of course, we have a shelf with wine. Can you leave that? Yes, of course. But they cannot leave the food. And then there is some kind of emotional eating. I see that in many, many people. And I think it's maybe a way to, behind every emotion there's an addiction. So a lot of the addiction is also, feeling lonely, feeling stressed, not being in life where you want to be. Maybe you have success with one part of your life, but not another part of your life. So this about eating, but has nothing to do with physical. You're not hungry. You're not a physical hunger. You're not hungry physically, but you still eat. And that's also what I talk a lot about. And sometimes just talking to me about it, and me telling them what I see, they say, oh yeah, I can see that. Oh no, that's a really... And then they just change the habit, because they have 12 weeks with me and we talk about it, and then they change it. And some of them, I say, I really think we should send you to a psychiatrist and talk about changing that habit of eating while life is difficult. Or also, I meet many people who are not like with a depression where they can't go to work, but a light depression. Because life is hard.
No, it really makes sense. And I've been following one Finnish professor about eating, and he's always talking about the emotional attachment with food, and that often it's behind there.
And to add one more note with that about the reports, when I see a report with very, very low activity level, I have had a few who had only like 3 hours of activity, 3 or 4 out of 24 hours. Apart from that, they're lying down. And they signed up for a health program because, again, they think, I really want to lose weight or get healthier. And then I take it from a totally another point, because I really want to hear how they feel, and I send them to a doctor. And I was taught that of a psychiatrist, because he told me if people are so inactive and they tell me how active they are, it's because they are depressed and they have so little energy. So they feel again they are still active, even though they don't only have 3 hours a day out of 24. They have a depression. So I sent them. That's why I was taught by a psychiatrist, and I really want you to take this knowledge and go to your doctor and tell him that I sent you.
Yeah.
So that's also, and I also had another one where if for example I can see the sleep pattern. I also have one executive in a part of a group that he was working many hours and his wife was at home with the baby, and he was up every other hour, and I said to him, well, what are you doing? You standing up every second or 3 hours during the night? And he said, because my wife is not feeling well, so I need to help her because I'm worried about her. And I said again to him, you have, otherwise one day you're gonna collapse with stress, because you work 14 hours a day and then you're up during the night. You need to take your wife to the doctor. So sometimes I really get really sensitive information from the reports where I send people to the doctor with that information.
Yeah, makes sense. And maybe one thing about how do you feel about the reports? I assume you are always going the reports together, that you are both looking and you go them together. How do you feel about this kind of consulting with the reports versus different kind of apps, or that people would look the reports themselves? How do you feel difference that there is an expert?
I think that's a major difference. I think, first of all, I have two things to say to that, because first of all, a lot of my clients have like armbands, and they say, oh, I feel active because I'm walking 10,000 steps a day. And of course, all steps are good. All steps are good, but then how do they sleep and the intensity and so on? So even though people think they know what they're doing, it's to get the whole, to look at their sleep and look at the 24 hours, and also look at how many hours they're sitting and for how long they're sitting. So I think to make this more scientific analysis, give them a lot more data than they can have from like a normal armband. And then, as you said, also during this conversation, I think my purpose is to send people out motivated. So even though I have people really bad reports, I'm really trying to motivate them to make a difference, and I'm writing down small steps we agree they can do. So I'm not telling them what to do. I ask them, how do you think? How can you be more standing? How can you? And then I ask them a lot of questions, and then they, with me, write down the plan for being more active. I'm just telling them, oh, you need to walk every day and you have to take your bike. Because I also have people working very far away from where they go to work, so they have to take the car, the train. So the whole, if the purpose is to help people, you need to meet people where they are.
Yeah,
so that's very important.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So they come up with a realistic plan.
Yeah,
and sometimes people's plans are not realistic. Yeah. Sometimes I change their plan because I'm like, yeah, your plan is maybe good, but it's unrealistic.
Yeah, it makes sense. And how do you feel? You said that people usually have wrist-worn devices, and then the Sense device is worn on the thigh, which is not as easy to wear, but with the patches, it's quite nice. How do people feel wearing something on the skin, on their having a shower with it, and so on?
Yeah, I think wearing the Sense sensor is so easy. Everybody says it's fine. It's and the difference, the major difference I see between the Sense report, because I have these businessmen who are buying the newest, for example, Apple Watch, and the major difference between the Apple Watch report they can send me and the Sense report is the difference between sitting and standing. That's also the difference between using leg-borne and arm-borne sensors. Because the Apple Watch, for example, my husband, he's the kind of type. He's got the newest Apple Watch all the time. And one day he came home, and he's got his own company, and he's sitting all the time. And then one day he came home and said, "Oh, I've been standing, I can't remember, so many hours." And I said, "No, you have not." And then I said to him, "I'm going to give you my sensor." And we compared the reports. And we got the same numbers in moderate pace and it would vigorous, because he went for a run, exactly the same numbers. But the major difference was that his Apple Watch, the newest, most expensive Apple Watch, could not find out if he was sitting or standing because it's on the arm. And that's what I was also telling my clients, that sometimes the arm-borne bands get more steps than my sensor does because it's on the legs. So it's more accurate.
Yeah. And I think the wrist-worn devices, they probably have a motivation to make them encouraging and maybe a little bit overestimate
yes, of
the
course.
activity.
That's good.
So
Yeah.
Very good, very interesting things. I think I really like your approach that it's science-based. Everything you have said makes sense. I would do the coaching similarly if I would be doing coaching. I think it really makes sense, and it would be great to kind of scale up this, that you could do this from the distance. This, I think this your method is great. It really makes sense. Of course, you have 4 kids and probably you don't want to start doing, but maybe anyone listening the podcast, if you would be interested, maybe doing something, because you could mail easily the device, people could attach, and then this kind of consultation could be done also online. Of course, face to face, it's maybe better, but it's sometimes too difficult. It would be.
Yeah, it's also because I always start, apart from the report, I have this scale where I see the total weight, the fat-free mass and the fat mass, because I also need to see the numbers as well.
Yeah, it's very good. And maybe is there anything you want to promote? You can tell how people can reach you if they want to take part in your 12-week coaching program. And have you also written a book? Please, anything you want to promote, free word.
Yeah, I haven't written the last book I wrote was about pregnancy. So that's 6 years ago I wrote that book. And right now I'm just making a course that's going to be both physically in Copenhagen, but also online for women in menopause.
Yeah.
But again, since I haven't studied medicine, and menopause is in Denmark and the States and everywhere in Europe, it's again a buzzword and people are coming out with a lot of products. So right now I've sent my program to one of the leading professors in Denmark. I want her to approve my program so people can see again it's based on science.
Yeah.
So that's a new thing I'm coming up with. But it's that also because women in menopause, they don't move. Because you not feeling weight physically and mentally, and then you eat some more and then you gain weight, and so also the sense where. And Fibion reports are a major part of my program, also for the women in menopause.
Yeah, sounds interesting. And you said that you have written a book about pregnancy. Would you like to tell a little bit more? What is it about, if someone is interested?
Yeah, but that's also about activity. Because more women getting pregnant are obese. I remember when I started, it was 1/3 that were overweight. I saw a research last week, now it's 40% of all women getting pregnant that are obese. So it's about, of course, training the core, being pregnant, but it's also being active, because a lot of women stop being active when they get pregnant. And again, you don't have to be an athlete, but you should be active. It's healthy for you and the baby as well. And you don't gain that much weight, and then when you become a mother, some women are have to lose weight while they also have to breastfeed, and it's then it's too hard, giving yourself too hard time. So I'm really trying also to get the pregnant women to just be normal active during the pregnancy.
Yeah, sounds great. So anyone interested, check that one. This was really interesting discussion, Lotte. It was very nice to have you, get you here.
Thank you for having me.
From your busy schedule.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.